Boy, oh boy, do we have a discussion today. How's it going, everybody? Thank you all so much for chiming in for the latest post-game show here on the channel as we are breaking down an unfortunate and so much to say about this game after the Mets lose 10-5 over the St. Louis Cardinals. The Mets still secure their series victory, so they have won their first 6 straight series for the season. The first time they have ever done that in their organization's existence. But this was a crazy game. So much sloppiness happened with both sides, especially the Mets, and of course the inevitable brawl that we saw transpire later in this one. So we're going to be deep diving everything that happened, of course, in this game, sharing my personal analysis and breaking down some numbers for you, along with answering all your comments, questions, and concerns for people here in the live stream, for people watching replay. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel after this whirlwind of a loss for the Mets as they now have an off day tomorrow and then look to start up another winning streak this Friday against the Philadelphia Phillies back at home? But like I said, we got a lot to get into, so I'm not going to waste too much time. I appreciate everyone being in here. Thank you so much to everybody for the kind words. I'll do a quick roll call to everyone that I've first seen chime in because naturally it's easier to do that. I know that we're going to have lower viewership when the Mets lose, and rightfully so. But this was just such a crazy game, such a sloppy game, such a frustrating game in a lot of aspects. But thankfully, again, the Mets having the hot start that they have had this year, I don't have to gripe about a lot of things too much today, but there are definitely some things that stick out. And yes, I'm still very much agitated with what transpired with JD Davis and then, of course, Nolan Arenado in the 9th inning. But shout out to all you guys. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Help us get to 100 likes for the first short-term goal. Help us get to 16K subs for the next short-term goal on the channel. Thank you all so much for 15K. It really does mean the world to me. If it isn't for you guys, none of this would be possible. But let's go through it. Mama Worm, how are you? Oliver, Brandon, Nathan, Jubilee, Bags, Ain't Nobody, McLovin, Brandel, Retro, Javi, Victor, Dave, great friend, and subscribe to the channel. L. Let's see, going down the list further. Jamari, George, all you guys, Keith, thank you all so much for being here. Everybody just chiming in. Josh, Ocean Girl, I really do appreciate it. But like I said, let's talk about this game. Another day, another donation from 1200 saying the same exact thing over and over again. Cano to the Volcano and SRF. Okay, so it's not May now, it's SRF. Gotcha. Okay, I'm going to go on a limb and say this goes in hand with how he performed today. No less, I appreciate that donation. Don't condone the words, but I appreciate the dono no less. As always, thank you so much for that, buddy. Let's see, another donation in here. I'll address that, and then we'll get into breaking down this game, which was a whirlwind, a roller coaster as an understatement. Frank, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Hype in the chat for Frank, great member of the channel. This 5 is for Lopez. Let's effing go. Yes, shout out to Yon Lopez. We'll be talking about him plenty here very soon. Thank you so much again for that donation. Really appreciate that, Frank. You've been a great member on the channel. But all right, guys, let's talk about this game because the Mets started off well. You know, they were facing off against their former Met and Mr. Steven Matz, the man who started what felt like a domino effect of the Mets then acquiring Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, and Mark Canha on the same day this past offseason, along with getting Max Scherzer right before the lockout and then getting Chris Bassett and rounding out the bullpen post-lockout. Because the Mets, of course, were not given a counteroffer option to get the last say, if you will, in the sweepstakes for Mets. And thankfully that everything fell out the way it did because the Mets, of course, have been off to a great start. Steven Matz, not so much. And the Mets did take advantage of Matz to start off this game overall. But the only issue was that the Mets weren't, the Cardinals weren't the only team that was struggling with pitching early, as was Cookie Carrasco. Carrasco surrendered a run that we saw in the first inning because Francisco Lindor had himself an infield error. Lindor looked phenomenal with the glove today. Just really unfortunate with that first error that brought in an unearned run thanks to a couple singles after that. And also throughout the game, Lindor had some ridiculous picks at the shortstop position, but wasn't able to get the throw to first in time for an out. It's not on Lindor. If it wasn't for him, that's an easy single for those two other plays that transpired in this one. But unfortunate error in the beginning. No less, Cookie settles in. Then, of course, in the second inning for the New York Mets, they tack on runs. What have the Mets been doing all season long? They have been leading the league in RBIs with runners with 2 out. The Mets have, I believe, between 40 and 45 or so, maybe even more RBIs scored when they have 2 outs. So it took 2 outs. Mets had a couple guys on, and Luis Guillorme got the party started with himself pardon me, not Guillorme, my mistake. Tomas Nido got himself a nice 2-out, 2 RBI double. And then right after that, Brandon Nimmo did the exact same thing to make it a 4-1 ball game. Only through we were in the second inning is when that transpired. But unfortunately, that did not last long because the Mets brought 9 batters to the plate the entire 1 through 9 against Matz in the second. But they had opportunities after that to tack on more runs. They fell short in a lot of ways. But then as we got into the third inning, this is where all hell broke loose, unfortunately. Started to, at least for Cookie Carrasco, who unfortunately did crumble today. Again, this is not all on Cookie. There were definitely some poor plays that transpired, some defensive miscues between the error from Lindor, and some just bad luck overall. But he also was not locating well today. The Cardinals, you had to get a feel of adamancy, an urgency type feeling after they lost the series to begin with, try to at least salvage the series to get a victory today. They did that, but in the third inning, they scored a couple runs, and that made it a one-run ball game. But then, as of course we got to the fourth inning, that is really where it completely blew up. The Cardinals scored 5 earned runs on Cookie Carrasco. SRF came in after Cookie gave up a couple runs, and SRF gave up a couple more. So Cookie was charged with 8 unearned runs, 8 total runs today, and 7 unearned. That 1 run difference was because of Lindor in the first. But yeah, Cookie just got worked, and it really sucked too, because when you saw some of those runs come in the third, one of them was a pass ball that squeaked through Nito's legs that brought in a run. Then right after that, the next batter, I believe that was Tyler O'Neill, if I'm not mistaken, he got the smallest chopper down to the left side of the infield that barely even went past Nito, but it was far enough to allow him to get to first safely, and that just, again, continued the cycle. So really unfortunate, frustrating that they were not able to get those outs there, and it was just a frustrating game as a whole. This was a sloppy one for the Mets. They're swinging and missing quite a bit, especially after Matz left the game. Matt settled in a little nicely after he gave up those 4 runs in the second inning, but still the Mets had multiple guys on base a lot in this game. They hit plenty. Mets had 11 hits to the Cardinals 15, but it really was a lack of proper base running. That is what we saw transpire later in this one, because in the 6th, we saw Mark Canha out at second trying to leg a single into a double, especially when you're down 4 at that point. I'm not sure why he was doing that. I think that was bad, poor base running. Mets haven't been poor with their base running for the majority of the season, but we saw that today. It was really unfortunate. Canha, again, out. They challenged it, Buck. It was a bad challenge. And then Gourmet hits a deep double dead center that goes over the head of the center fielder, that being Bader. But he tries to leg a double into a triple, and again, the same situation. He's out. A beautiful throw. Again, don't get me wrong, it was a money throw. Don't get me wrong, by the outfielder for the Cardinals, and maybe that was Carlson, not Bader. No less, the Mets, if they just did proper base running that inning, they would have tacked on at least 1 run because of Canha and then Gourmet doing what he did. So again, it's unfortunate. The Mets just did not have it today. This was their worst outing from a starter standpoint, giving up 8 runs total. And of course, just the entire staff, the Mets have not given up 10 runs this year. So from a pitching perspective, this was the worst game of the season, a humbling game in that right. But this was a game that, again, was still filled with plenty of drama, because as we saw later on in this one, after the Cardinals, of course, scored another run thanks to a Nolan Arenado double in the bottom half of the 6th, we get to the 7th inning, and Sosa is out on a comebacker from his own teammate at the doing his at bat. And I'm sorry for the us guys, I'm just all over the place. This was a wacky game, and I really am a little frustrated by it, but I also know that they got the series win, so that's what matters most. If you guys are just chiming in, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. Would really appreciate it. Like I said, I'll be getting all your comments, all that fun stuff, all the thoughts real soon after I break down what transpired in this game, because like I said, there was a comebacker that hit Sosa, the 3rd time that we've already seen this season in a Mets game where a player was hit while trying to travel around the bases by, the comebacker from the batter that was at the plate. Happened once to the Mets and Cano, and happened twice to the opponents, this being the Cardinals and the D-backs. But going now into, of course, what transpired in the 7th, still, the Cards tacked on another run in that inning thanks to a opposite field single from Paul Goldschmidt, who did really well this series. He definitely stood out for the Cards. But then in the 8th inning, this is where the drama really started to kick in. So Cookie Carrasco, after again giving up 8 runs, 7 earned, we had Sean Refoley in for inning 1.2 innings pitched, gave 1 earned run up, but again, he really was charged with more. Not technically, because that went to Cookie, but in reality, he did give up more, if we're basing things on that, than 1 earned run. Chasen Shreve came in, 0.2 innings pitched, had 2 strikeouts, not a problem. Shreve has looked fantastic. But then we get to the 8th inning for the Mets, and this is where we have the issue. J.D. Davis on a 3-2 count gets hit really hard right in the ankle. The Mets at that point were then hit 19 times out of their first 20 games this season. And this is after, guys, let's not forget, and I'm glad I'm bringing this up now, Chris Bassett being completely blunt with the media post-game yesterday, how saying that enough is enough, this should not be happening. And, he was even, giving the benefit of the doubt to the Cardinals pitchers after Pete Alonso got hit in the head, saying that no ball has been consistent this year. There's a clear problem. The MLB doesn't give a shit. The balls just simply are not gripping well. And there isn't a universal substance that pitchers can use that can benefit them. And it is hilarious because, again, let's remember the whole motto behind the sticky substance ban last year was to eliminate the hit by pitches to hopefully lessen. It has, in fact, done the exact opposite. There's been more hit by pitches since the sticky substance ban began last season than the previous 5+ years. So you could tell I'm very firm under the belief that was cover up just to change the balls mid-season, make it fly out more, because the MLB was at a historic low pace to start last season with the dead end ball, with the lack of offensive production, got no hitters at an alarming rate, all these things. And then we're seeing the same thing to start this season too. Just a complete lack of consistency. The ball is not flying out. But JD got hit and he got hurt. Thankfully, it looks like his x-rays are negative from what's been announced, but we don't know exactly what is the significance of his injury right now. When you get drilled right in the ankle on the bone, that's got to hurt, and you saw him ailing. So then we get, of course, to the 9th inning, and that is, to the bottom of the 8th. Nolan Arenado being the first batter. Yona Lopez comes in for his Mets debut, and Yona Lopez throws a fastball up high and in on Arenado. Does he hit him? No, but Arenado, being the soft young man that he is, decides to retaliate, pushes Nido away, that you guys have been seeing the highlights, and a clear brawl ensues between both sides. Pete Alonso is gaining a little bit of a tumble thing going with the first base coach for the Cardinals. I really do think it's hilarious how the Cardinals act as if they are the one they're the ones being victimized here, right? Not the Mets that have been hit more than any other team in baseball, to the point that the Mets have, in fact, approached the MLB about this issue, and the MLB has released a statement. They're going to keep a close eye on it, given the fact that the Mets have been hit basically double than any other team in the league, the next closest team at least. And you saw Bassett have his words last night, and Miles Michaelis out here today saying that the ball isn't the problem. After Bassett actually gave them the benefit of the doubt that, it really isn't the pitcher's fault. There's just the balls have been so inconsistent. Michaelis comes out right before the game today and says that, the balls are the problem. It's down to the pitcher. So he made himself look like a dumbass, pardon my French, but he did, because he goes out and counters Bassett and basically says, pitchers can control the baseball. So that means that you are, in fact, trying to hit the batters, and or two, you just suck and you can't locate your ball. Because if it's not the baseball's problem, then naturally it has to be the guy throwing it, right? So Michaelis, low IQ with that one, to put it lightly. But getting back into this one, Arenado's thrown out of the game. Multiple guys are thrown out of the game. Arenado, just an absolute puss. I mean, really, even if you don't know the full backstory, you could see what's happened already in this series. The Mets have been hit 19 times already this season. How many times have they drilled the mound? How many effing times have the Mets actually drilled the mound? The batter, the one that gets hit especially, it's not happened once. Even after Alonso got drilled in the head again yesterday for the second time this season, while he was pissed, he did not go to the mound. And then you have Arenado looking like, he's a big tough guy, throwing Nido aside, and then he's the last guy, outside of the complete scrum. It's just a pussy look. I'm sorry. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the fact that they have the audacity to act as if they're the victims here when they never even got hit. Okay, I get it. There was a clear expectation that the Mets would retaliate, and that was a time to retaliate. But Buck made it known that Buck is not trying to have the Mets retaliate where someone's getting hurt. That's the last thing he wants to see happen. So this is the Mets' second time this season that they have purposely thrown at a batter. But they didn't even hit the guy. They literally didn't even hit him. But again, that was enough to warrant the entire brawl that ensued. It felt inevitable, but no less. The Mets end up losing this one as a whole, 10-5. A lot of frustrating aspects of this game. Wardy's top 5 for me, at least, though. It has to be Tomas Nido. He had a really, really, really good day at the plate. 2 for 3 with a double, 2 RBIs and runs scored. And I love that for Nido, too, because Nido, in recent games, especially in the D-back series and then to start the Cardinals series, has really been looking silly at the plate at times, taking way too many pitches, swinging right through them, sliders down away, breaking balls down away, struggling with those off-speed pitches, but he was able to command the zone nicely today. Then Brandon Nimmo has to be my number 2 star, went 1 for 5 again with that 2-out, 2 RBI double, just like Nido in the same inning in the second. Lindor broke his 0 for 15 skid, and Lindor was barreling the ball tremendously well. Should have had 2 home runs the other night, but again, the ball was not flying, and the ball is deadened right now too. But Lindor 1 for 4, had himself an RBI double. That's always good to see. Yorme had a very good day at the plate too, but just poor base running, trying to leg a double and do a triple there in the 6th when the Mets needed runs. That was not the way to do it. 2 for 4 with a double and a run scored. And Escobar, same thing, 2 for 4 with a double and a run scored. So guys, I'm going to start answering all your comments and questions here in a minute. But man, oh man, this was just a frustrating game in all aspects. And I'm glad to forget about it. We have the off day tomorrow. So tomorrow, stay tuned. We'll be doing a series preview at some point, probably more so in the evening, of the Phillies matchup. But this was just such a stupid game. I mean, from a lot of aspects. And don't get me wrong, the Cardinals deserve the win, rightfully so. And this was a little bit of a humbling game for the Mets too. But there was just, again, just a lot of things that shouldn't have happened, unnecessary. It's just infuriating me that the Mets have truly been hit this much this season. And it's not just the Cardinals, but it's the fact that something has to change at some point, and it still hasn't. This is the second time already this season for the Mets that they have had to do a brawl with the team after, either hit by pitch, or in this case, for the first time, the Mets actually being the one to throw out the batter. But again, they didn't even hit Arenado. They didn't even hit him. If you hit him, then I think there's complete justification of, acting the way that you did, that being Arenado. But the fact that he didn't, and I did not expect him to be hit, come on. I mean, I just think that's silly. I really do. But I'm going to be answering some donations here, folks, and answering all your questions. But for people on replay, this is where we're going to cut things off. I hope you guys enjoyed this post-game show. My apologies in advance again for how sloppy this one has been. Like I said, I'm all over the place. I'm adamant. I'm frustrated. This was just an annoying game. All in all, I'm going to be happy to forget about it. Mets will bounce back just fine. They win this series no less, 2 games out of the 3, and they look to hopefully start another winning streak and against the Philadelphia Phillies. So everyone here in the live stream, I'm going to start answering all your comments, questions, and concerns and donations. And for people on replay, this is where we'll be cutting things off. So make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby.